Welcome to another edition of Mitch's Media Musings. This is another in a series of audio podcasts with interesting media outlets and media folks around town. And today we are talking with Beth Bond, who is the curator of sustainable news with Southeast Green. Good morning, Beth.
Good morning.
Well, let's talk just first about what is Southeast Green and what are people going to find when they go to your website?
Well, that's a really interesting question because I've done a very good job of confusing folks. I think of Southeast Green as a definition of new media. We are a website that provides news and information and a little bit of fun about sustainability and environmental policy, business news, and for the Southeast. But a lot of people call me a blog, and I think that's because I'm a female. I think it's sort of crazy. So I've sort of given up arguing about whether we're a blog or new media or a website, but essentially we're a portal where we aggregate press releases from all over the Southeast. We cover 13 states, and we also have some information about how to become green, whether it's in your business or your home. But then 80% of the content is news from businesses and from nonprofits and from government entities telling us about sustainability.
All right, so, I look at it and, I definitely see a news website. I don't see a blog. I mean, to me, a blog is someone just kind of talking about a topic. I mean, your site is definitely news.
Right, and it's not, I do a little bit of writing. My voice really comes through because we do a weekly radio show, and so being from Alabama and English is my second language, I don't have to edit the show, and I get to interview people from all over the Southeast. But unfortunately, in the PR world, it's very clear that I'm not a blog. I think the professionals understand it. But when you get out into the general business population, they're just utterly confused. And HubSpot, which I don't consider a blog, is being called a blog. So I thought, well, if HubSpot can be called a blog, then I'll stop. I corrected people all the time, but I've just let it go. But it really is a news site, and we've tried to be very progressive. We have videos. I do MOS, man on the street interviews when I'm out and about. So we have video. We have the radio show, which is essentially a podcast. And then we have over 10,000 pages of articles now.
So let's talk about the radio show for a second. Is that how often is that done?
Well, we do it once a week, and it broadcasts at 9:30 a.m. Wednesday mornings. We use a format called Blog Talk Radio, and you can listen to it live, which is really cool because when you listen to it live, you can actually join us in the chat room, and if you have a question for our guests, then you can type in the question and we'll ask it live on the air. Afterwards, it becomes a podcast, and you can find the episodes on the website, or you can subscribe to them through iTunes too.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I've suggested iTunes to a couple of folks who've been doing podcasting and audio. So, what would you say is kind of unique and different about your site compared to other news sites? Of course, obviously the environmental and green focus, but anything else that's kind of unique and different?
Well, I will take a moment to talk about why the environmental news. People are like, well, you can find this information on the internet, but the truth is if you don't know about it, you can't find it. And everyone knows in the last 5 to 10 years, environmental news has disappeared from major media outlets. So I have become the place for the environmental and sustainable community to get their news and to find news. The other things that I think that make us unique is being sort of a one-armed wallpaper hanger, basically trying to do everything. We can be pretty nimble, and so we can adjust to the latest technology. We very, very early adopters of social media, so we have very strong presence and a very strong organic presence. I just did it naturally. I didn't pay for likes or anything in regards to that. And so I think the fact that we're constantly pushing out this news through social media channels even adds to our value for the community. And, social media may not be unique, but I just attended Digital Atlanta the other day, and I saw a panel of TV professionals, and we all know newspapers are going away, or at least, evolving into these online entities. But I was sort of stunned by the lack of social media acuity of these TV folks. And all I could think of is wow, papers that are going to be going away. I mean, these guys are so antiquated in the way they're thinking about it, communicating the news. TV's going to, this is going to go away too. So, which was a real revelation to me, because I just thought I would get in there and just be so wowed by what they were doing, but, most of them didn't even use Twitter. And Twitter is now, one of the primary ways, urbanites at least get their news.
Right, and you're on Twitter. What's your Twitter address?
It's Beth S.E. Green, and I am very active, and I always sort of warn people, because one of the things, this is another proposition where we're really unique. I took one journalism class in college, and I am not a journalist by trade. I certainly understand the professional demands of being a journalist and respect that as the fifth estate, but I'm not a journalist. And so when I was going to events, I wasn't going to be taking notes and writing articles. It's not my forte, but it turns out that all those years in student government really paid off, because I'm a great note taker. So what I do is when I go to an event, I tweet live. And so people who can't attend the event actually follow me along. They'll actually tweet me questions that I can ask the speakers at the event. And I just happen to have the fastest thumbs this side of Mississippi, who wanted to grow up to be that. And so I can do about 50 tweets in an hour. So it's really fun. It's sort of funny because it's fun, even though you're covering like the geekiest, wonkiest policy thing, to be able to send that news out immediately and have people react and, appreciate that work. And then afterwards, we come back and we compile all those tweets, and I call it a tweet diary. And then you can just read the tweets in order, just to get to, and it's, sometimes, you want to take the luxury of being sunk into the word and the beauty of someone writing in a well-crafted article. But for those who just need the facts really quickly, those tweet diaries are great because they can just skim right through them.
Yeah, okay. So what do you see as the kind of the hot topics right now in your area? Well,
it's interesting because Southeast Green is celebrating its fifth year this fall, and it changes, right? I mean, you hear about news cycles and everything, and in theory, but it is sort of interesting to see what the hot topics are. And so right now, we ran into each other at the ARC. The walk-ups, which is an urban planning type of idea, is very popular, which is going to coincide perfectly with Sustainable Atlanta is doing eco-districts, which is going to allow neighborhoods who have business communities to sort of create their own little district, and then they have to meet certain targets in regards to recycling and water conservation and that kind of thing. Other hot topics right now are the non-GMO labeling fight that is still going on. And, of course, the Public Service Commission right now in Georgia, and this is not for the whole Southeast, but for Georgia, is listening to a rate case, and it involves more solar in regards to how solar is going to be treated. So solar has been really hot. We've made national news from Georgia because of the Green Tea Party Coalition, which is the Green Tea Party. The Tea Party folks of Georgia teamed up with the Sierra Club, talking about odd bedfellows, and talking about how conservatives need to embrace solar. So it's been sort of an exciting last 4 or 5 months following that.
So for companies or PR people who want to contact you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
It's funny because as much as I love to say that I've adopted new media, there's two ways. There's the old-fashioned way. Email is really the best way, especially if you have something longer than a tweet. But I have to take on the journalism hat, because it turns out the best way to get in touch with the journalists is through Twitter, and that is true for me too. So Beth S.E. Green, again, for the Twitter handle, and my email address is beth@southeastgreen.com. And for any of your listeners who are looking, they've got sustainability news and they're trying to get it, and as long as it's in the Southeast, it always has a home at Southeast Green.
Okay, and photos definitely good. I know you like to have a good photo with the story as well.
Absolutely, and like I said, we're leveraging all types of social media, so if we get a photo, it makes it very easy for us to pen the article.
How about video? If someone wants to give you some video, can you use that on the site as well?
We actually have a pretty large video section. Video, for me, just because it's easier and we don't have to worry about transferring files. If you have it on YouTube, that's fine. I can do Vimeo too, but YouTube is my preference. But we'll take video all day, every day.
Okay.
In fact, at the social media conference, they were talking that 80% of people would rather see pictures and video over articles, which is sort of funny because most of the site's articles. So.
Yeah, we put things on Dropbox a lot for media, just so I can pull it down that way too. But sometimes YouTube video is not quite. It's great for websites, but not always good for TV if you want to share video that way.
Absolutely, and that's the other thing. I mean, because we've leveraged the internet, it's YouTube's great, and I don't have to worry about quality. It's the same thing with the images. Like, oh, well, you need a high res image. You never really need a high res image for the website.
Right.
And I always prefer a larger image so I can crop it down. Tiny images are a problem, but the nice thing about the web is those issues with size and resolution,
right,
which I really appreciate. Trust me. I mean, I'm not trying to take away from the work of photographers or videographers. I just don't need that quality.
Okay. Well, great. Well, we've been talking with Beth Bond, who's with Southeast Green. The website is www.southeastgreen.com, and Beth mentioned earlier the Twitter address and an email. So if you have environmental or green related news, shoot her some info and see if she can use that on the site. Beth, thank you very much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
My pleasure and honor to be with you today, Mitch.
Great. Well, thanks. Well, folks, you've been listening to Beth, and this is another edition of our Mitch's Media Musings podcast. If you want to get kind of a archive of previous podcasts, you can go to your Left Atlanta Media or Mitch's Media Match subscription and find a link to the podcast page. And as always, if you want to get friends to sign up, send them to the website, and we'll see you next month.